Hey, Michael. Oh, well, you're looking very, very cold and it's looking very dark there. Where exactly are you?
Yes, it is very cold. It's very dark. I am in my ski jacket, but I am in beautiful Switzerland, in a little town south of Zurich called Davos.
Ooh. And why exactly are you in the very chilly looking Davos?
Well, this week is the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. This little ski resort is transformed into a hub of activity where world leaders from government, business, civil society, and academia descend on Davos for 1 week, where they, quote, engage in forward looking discussions to address global issues and set priorities, including our very own John Schultz, EVP and Chief Operating and Legal Officer. Now, John is involved in a session called Data Against Modern Slavery. And HP will also be talking at the AI House, a platform for collaboration aiming to shape the next frontiers in AI.
Ooh, that sounds very exciting. Well, then why don't we get going?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Michael Bird.
I'm Sam Gerald, and welcome to Technology Now from HPE.
Well, welcome to the World Economic Forum annual meeting here in Davos, Switzerland.
Yes, and Michael, for the uninitiated, what exactly is the World Economic Forum and why is HPE there?
Well, the World Economic Forum, and you might have heard it referred to as just Davos, which is where it takes place, is an annual event where governments, businesses, representatives from civil society and academia arrive from all over the world to meet and discuss the major obstacles facing humanity. Now, it started 55 years ago in 1971, and possibly one of the most interesting things is that attendees span all sorts of private and public sectors, backgrounds, and ideologies. It's a true melting pot of ideas for people to try and address the world's most pressing challenges.
Then I assume that means the reason that we as HPE are there is because we're a global leader in topics like AI and cloud, right?
Yeah, exactly, Sam. Now, global trends in AI, cloud, and sustainability are incredibly important to us as a company, but it's more than that. We work with governments around the world, and we are also working to try and reduce things like modern slavery, which is a global issue and a big topic for HPE at this year's conference. So, let's look into those key topics a bit more. Earlier today, I had a chat with our very own president and CEO, Antonio Neri, to get a deeper insight into what HPE are doing here and what we are hoping to come away with. Well, Antonio, thank you so much for joining us again on Technology Now. It's slightly different to last time we met. We're not wearing sports kit.
No.
But it is still quite cold.
Well, actually, as I can see, the weather is actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
A lot of snow, but it's always the time of the year here, and overnight it gets really cold.
It does get very, very cold. So we're at Davos 2026. Can you just talk to me some of the key themes of Davos this year?
It's always great to be back in Davos because you get the opportunity to meet with government officials and a lot of customers. And the customers' representation is very long and deep. And obviously our CEOs. And that's the opportunity to really have strategic conversations, close deals, which is very important, but really talk about the status of the affairs of the world and then what we see in the industry. For us, obviously, AI is going to be an important element of it.
Yeah.
That was a theme last year. But I think this year is going to be dominated by the geopolitical tension.
Yeah.
And obviously tariff is going to be another element of that.
So why are HPE here in particular?
We have a lot of customers that come here, and it's an opportunity to strengthen those relationships or to establish new strategic partnerships. We'll be meeting with a lot of government officials where we have a lot of things going on. Many of them are in the process of deploying AI. And it takes relationships, it takes a lot of conversations to make sure they don't forget about you. But ultimately, we need to compete with the best technologies and best people, which of course we have. But don't underestimate the power of having those strategic discussions.
And what do our customers get out of us being here at Davos?
We learn a lot, and we incorporate that learning into our agenda. starting with the strategy, figure out where we should invest, where we should divest. Sometimes you come here and then you realize, you know what, that was the wrong place to invest. Let's shift that investment somewhere else. Or we learn a new opportunity where we should double down very aggressively. And when I think about where the growth is today, obviously we see the United States economy growing very rapidly with strong GDP. Asia continue to grow very rapidly. India is one of the fastest GDP growth countries in the world. But when you look at Middle East, obviously they are investing significantly in infrastructure. They want to be a center of excellence for AI. And so having the ability to be here and learn and then having those conversations is very important as we establish our agenda for the next 12 months or 36 months.
And what are you in particular most looking forward to at this year's World Economic Forum?
For me, it's always about getting with people, getting their point of view, and then, learn. This is an amazing forum for an intensive learning over 3 days.
And you get to spend time with customers?
Of course, yes. Much of the agenda is with customers and government, obviously, but governments are customers too.
So you touched on this earlier. Last year, AI was the big hot topic at Davos. I mean, has much changed since then?
No, I think continue to be a hot topic. I think it's a topic that plays into the geopolitical aspects of it, because everybody wants to preserve sovereignty. And that's why for us, it's a huge opportunity to build the AI infrastructure with sovereign principles. And we have the right to play there because of our supercomputing heritage. But honestly, we are building now some large AI clouds for governments. Think about the UK or the classified system we built for the French government. So there is many of those opportunities, and that's why you need to be here talking to customers and governments, because sometimes the government is the prime, meaning the customer themselves. Sometimes the government use a private sector to build the cloud, so we have to be in concert with both of them.
So I want to talk about some of the key themes being discussed at the AI House, where HP has a presence this week, and it keeps coming up on technology now. But you mentioned the S word, sovereignty, earlier.
Yeah.
It's a huge topic. It feels like at Davos this year. Why do you think that is?
Well, because many of the models, if not most of the models, are built in the United States and trained in the United States. And, and that clearly is great for the United States. But when you think about, culture, think about national security, talk about data sovereignty, the regulation, compliance, they all play a huge, huge role in the sovereign aspect of it. And so it's very, very clear that as we move from generative AI to agentic AI to physical AI, that many of these models will be trained locally, and the data will remain local. And that's why, for us, it's important that we understand what level of investments each of these countries or the European Union are going to make, and making sure that, to your question, our name is there and visible to be a trusted partner. And remember, we already developed a lot of the sovereign solutions, even with GreenLake, disconnected sovereign cloud instances that we already provide. But this is going to be a massive infrastructure build out over the next 2 to 3 years.
It feels like this time last year, sovereign wasn't really on anyone's lips, but I've really heard it lots in the last, say, 3 months or so.
Well, because now we see the evolution and the acceleration of AI. Yeah. And we now see real use cases. We see the benefits of it, and nobody wants to be left behind. So I think people are waking up to the idea that if you're not using AI, you're going to be left behind. But at the same time, how you use it and how you deploy it is as important as for what purpose.
And how does this impact the way that we at HP think about the way that, the way that we develop technologies, the way that we speak to our customers?
Well, remember, we developed an AI ethical code that we use for ourselves, for deploying AI, but also for developing solutions for our customers, right? Data provenance, the provenance of the model, how we use tools in R&D and the like. And, starts with our mission and the responsibility to do the good, not just for shareholders, but for the society we participate and the countries we work.
Another word that's coming up a fair bit is trust. It's a big theme apparently this year. Within a business context, like what does trust mean to you?
Well, trust is earned. And you have to earn trust over a period of time by the series of actions and how you operate and, through your values and your commitments. The good news is that obviously we are an incredible ethical company that have the trust for customers and countries we participate in. But, you can't take it for granted, right? A little misstep, a little mistake, it sets you back so far that it takes years to recover from that. So that's why our employees work ethically, with integrity, and remember how our technology can advance the way people live and work, and fundamentally advance also the communities we work in.
So sort of trust and ethics align quite closely.
Yeah, without one, you can have the other.
Yeah. And I suppose possibly even sustainability there at some point.
Well, sustainability is an outcome, right? Because obviously, if you do it with the planet in mind to reduce carbon footprint, it pushes the engineer to think differently. And the reality is that both can be done. It just needs to be a priority, it needs to be a focus.
Yeah. We briefly talked about quantum computing when we met in Barcelona, and it feels like it's another major topic of discussion.
Yep.
What is it about quantum that captures our attention? Like, what is it that's so exciting about it?
Well, obviously, it is a complete different computing architecture.
Yeah.
Remember, we're still operating in the conventional architecture that was developed decades ago, and the Moore's law that allows us to increase the compute power over time. But now we are reaching the wall, right? And therefore, quantum computing with quantum physics and new technologies can accelerate the computing landscape to levels we haven't imagined before. And then, as always said, I don't think one replaces the other one. One works with the other one. Look, today we still have mainframes around the world. We still have PC client servers somewhere in the world. We have obviously the cloud, and we have high performance computing and supercomputing. I think my view that the quantum computing will address unique use cases, unique problems that neither of those solutions can solve themselves, but also can be an accelerator for conventional computing to get traditional workloads to a new level of performance that maybe was not available before.
Almost like something else that an organization can have in their arsenal to solve a specific problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think about what problems quantum computing can resolve. Definitely finding cures is one important aspect. Think about molecular docking is an important aspect of it. Obviously, national security is key. So there is many use cases. The problem we have with quantum computer right now is that it has tremendous potential. Still early in the development. There's progress being made, but the cost curve is still too steep and the scale is not there yet. So that's why I think our approach to integrate quantum computing as a part of the conventional computing is the right one.
Yeah.
And we will do that through both our networking and our software layers where we have deep expertise.
It feels like AI may have been there a few years ago. That sort of hasn't quite scaled, isn't particularly well known, and then it just sort of overnight just accelerated, didn't it?
Yeah, but AI technologies like GPU still traditional.
Yeah.
Conventional kind of core-based and ARM-based, but quantum is a whole different scenario. So today maybe we are reaching 1,000 qubits, which you think is a lot, but actually it's not a lot in the context of solving some of the biggest mathematical algorithm problems.
So where does HP sit in the world of quantum computing?
As I said, we want to play an agnostic game, meaning where we work with a lot of the quantum companies to help them scale to logical set of units that ultimately becomes a larger scale, and then integrate quantum into the conventional computing. We already have done that. We have done proof of concept for that. So we're going to play in the networking layer to connect both the conventional with the quantum, and within the quantum be able to do a scale out type of solutions by chaining together smaller amount of qubits so we can get more qubits. And then the software environment, because ultimately computer require quantum applications, and that's a whole different development environment.
Okay, so we've gone from the smallest objects in the universe to something that's pretty much the opposite. Space.
Space.
Why are we talking about space at the AI House at Davos this year?
Because it's a new frontier, right? So I think, the mission to Moon and the mission to Mars requires an enormous amount of technology. Despite the fact that we're on the Moon in 1969 for the first time, when I think about the Moon will become a point of launch to Mars because the distance is so far. And so establishing the right infrastructure on the Moon will allow us to get to Mars. Think about communications, bases, and colonies of sorts. But once you are there, you will learn new things that will make the planet stronger. So everything we learn there will make the Earth planet better.
Mm. And should we expect to see moves when it comes to technology in space?
We are already part of the mission to the Moon through the partnership with Venturi Astrolab, where we're going to integrate our compute and our network inside these rovers, which are going to play a huge role moving, stockpiles and materials around the Moon. So we are very excited about that. And hopefully, if everything stays on time, which, as you know, it's not always the case, we expect that by the end of 2026, we will have HPE on the Moon.
And on that, Antonio, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's been a really genuinely interesting conversation.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Wow, that was quite the conversation. It was really interesting listening to you and Antonio catch up. I really enjoyed it. Specifically, I think the discussion around like us being here and meeting with customers and trying to be a force for good in the world while we're with all these world leaders.
I think I find this place quite fascinating. It's like you walk along the street and you just sort of don't know who you're bumping shoulders with. It's such a great opportunity to meet with, collaborate with, have conversations with people from all walks of life, from businesses, governments, as we said at the top of the show. So yeah, I found it a really fascinating conversation with Antonio. One of the things I thought was really cool was how he talks about how actually some of the conversations he has during this week sort of helps to maybe like mold, change, tweak our company strategy.
I would imagine he said he was meeting with customers, but those customers can be some of like the largest organizations and governments in the entire world. So it kind of has a different lens to it. When you're hearing directly from a world leader who we do business with, they're saying these are our priorities, then you do kind of need to consider, okay, how do we then rearrange our HPE priorities to meet those needs, right?
I think to some extent, like you're hearing these conversations about maybe what governments are doing, maybe how they're wanting to help their citizens, how they want to do things differently. And actually that can then impact how we as a company approach our strategy. So I thought that was fascinating. I guess the other thing that we talked about was sovereignty, the S word.
Yes.
I don't know about you, like I'm hearing it all the time now.
It's come up a lot, but I often feel like the framing of the word data sovereignty, it sounds like this bigger thing than it is, but really it is just who owns the data, right? Who gets to make the rules around how the data is used and how does it stay protected and whatnot. And I think it's a big question, particularly as AI has become more and more of a theme, not just in Davos itself, but for everybody, right? Who has your data and who is allowed to use it and what can become of it, back in the day, you might post something or publish something, and you're just expecting it to be viewed, not necessarily leveraged. So I think it has a lot of implications, and I see where maybe our customers are coming together and starting to really grapple with what does it mean for me, being in the US and having my data taken and leveraged somewhere, or what does it mean for you being in the UK?
And I think what's interesting about being here in Davos is that there are leaders of like sovereign nations. So it's not necessarily a hypothetical thing. It's actually like going and speaking to a world leader and asking, like, how do you view sovereignty as a nation? How do you view sovereignty as it comes to data or as it pertains to AI? So I thought was really fascinating. The last thing that I thought was really fascinating that Antonio and I talked about was quantum computing. I think we briefly touched on it again back in Barcelona, but like it feels like it's the next big thing. It's the thing that people are starting to talk about a lot more.
I appreciate that he said, we're not there yet, but you're right.
Yeah.
It is the next big thing on the horizon. And so everyone has to be kind of discussing and thinking about it right now. In the same way that 10 years ago, when people talked about AI, I still think people thought, oh, that's something 30, however, 40, maybe not even my lifetime, in the future. But a lot of AI concepts were actually slowly becoming a reality then. And people who were having these discussions could see it on the horizon. So quantum is coming for us. It's coming for us. And I feel as though the speed of innovation just, continues to pick up. And so it'll be here before we know it. We need to be prepared.
Now, Sam, we've spoken a fair amount about what's happening here at Davos. And as I said at the start, the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum is attended by world leaders and businesses. So one thing I wanted to ask Antonio was why the everyday person should actually be paying attention to what's being discussed here at Davos.
Because it will impact them one way or the other one. This is a place where a lot of policies get shaped. And ultimately, remember what was the mission of the World Economic Forum is to make a better world. That has shifted over the years, right? But I think this year is going to be very important to get some sort of common understanding on these issues so that when we get out of this place and go back to normal routine, there will be follow-ups and closure. So we need to find common ground for peace, common ground for inclusion, and common ground for making sure everybody get access to what they need to provide better services and better life to their citizens.
Okay. That brings us to the end of Technology Now for this week. Thank you so much to our guest, Antonio Neri, and to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do let us know. Rate and review us wherever you listen to episodes. And if you want to get in contact with us, please send us an email to technologynow@hpe.com. Subject line, Snowy Switzerland?
Yep, ski jacket.
Ski jacket?
Subject line, I'm really cold.
And don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch every episode and be the first to listen every week.
Yes, Technology Now is hosted by Sam Jarrell and myself, Michael Bird. And this episode was produced by Harry Lampert and Izzy Clark, with production support from Alicia Kempston-Taylor, Becky Bird, Alyssa Mitri, and Renee Edwards. Our video editor was Dan King, and our theme music was composed by Greg Hooper.
Our social editorial team is Rebecca Wissinger, Judy Ann Goldman, and Jacqueline Green. And our social media designers are Alejandra Garcia and Ambar Maldonado.
Technology Now is a Fresh Air production for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and we'll see you at the same time, the same place next week. Cheers.
Bye, y'all.